Praise the Lord. This is Dr. Solomon Ackerman from Miracle Christian Fellowship Church. It's a place where miracles are always happening every day. And we just want to remind you that this Friday night, Sunday morning, we're going to be having two great special revival miracle services. Join us this Friday, the 5th of November, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. Bring all your work colleagues and your friends, relatives, and let them come join us this Friday night. And also Sunday morning, a special Holy Communion miracle service. We're going to be serving Holy Communion this Sunday, the first Sunday of the month. Don't miss these two exciting moments in these services. Bring the sick, bring somebody who is downtrodden, bring somebody who needs a miracle, bring somebody who needs promotion, increase, somebody who is hungry for God. Bring them in. Hallelujah. Well, tonight, I can't wait. This is our midweek service, Bible studies. We have a great man of God here. Let us all stand on our feet from all over the building. And let us all welcome Dr. Monday Onaiwu. Also, we want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And every time you turn it on, you're going to see this man of God powerfully preaching and teaching. Let us put our hands together again and encourage him as he comes. Dr. Monday Onaiwu.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, my pastor, for the warm welcome. And thank you, my brethren, for taking time out of this busy day to be here this evening when you ought to have gone to your family and rest. The Bible study this evening is fascinating. And it's taken from the book of Daniel, chapter 6, 1 through 27. We are going to read horribly and go through it. And we are going to learn seriously from the book. I'm using the Life Application Bible. And I'm going to read. And probably as I read through, there's a need to throw some light in the areas of interest. I will do so. But at the end, we are going to challenge ourselves for better clarity by responding to some questions drawn out of this chapter. Darius the Mede decided to divide the kingdom into 120 provinces, and he appointed a high officer to rule over each province. 120 provinces with a ruler, a high officer to rule over each of the provinces. Then the king also chose Daniel and 2 others as administrators to supervise the high officers and protect the king's interest. 120 provinces, 120 high officers, and 3 administrators the officers of the provinces are accountable to. And Daniel was fortunate by God divine dictate to be one of those administrators. Remember, he was a captive. And one would not expect him to have excelled so much in captivity. But divine power of God enable him to do so. The topic is uncompromising faith. Uncompromising faith. Daniel soon proved himself more capable than all the other administrators and high officers, because Daniel's great ability. The king made plan to place him over the entire empire. Already, he is one of the 3 leading administrators. Remember, a captive. Now, because of his ability, the king is considering him to rule over the whole empire, second to him. Why would that be? That's what we find out. We're in the book of Daniel, chapter 6, 1 through 27. 4. Then the other administrators and high officers began searching for some fault in the way Daniel was handling government affairs. But they couldn't find anything to criticize or condemn. He was faithful. Underscore. Why was he favored by God? Why was he favored by the king Darius? Underscore. Remember, he's a true child of God. Devoted. Why was he favored? Let's see. The other administrators and high officers began searching for some fault in the way Daniel was handling government affairs, but they couldn't find any to criticize or condemn. Why? Because he was faithful, always responsible, and completely trustworthy. These are the characters we expect of a child of God to exhibit anywhere you are, not occasionally, but at all times. Be trustworthy, be responsible, and have faith, and never abandon your belief in God. So he was trustworthy. He was faithful. Trustworthy, yes, to God. Faithful, yes, to God. Responsible, yet to God, because he obeyed all the commands of God. But does it stop there? How do I prove I'm a Christian or a child of God if only I'm submissive to God and not to others around me or in authority over me? How do I prove I'm a child of God when I am given a position of responsibility? I do not let my ability act as a testimony to say this is a child of God. Now, it may sound funny because the world has a way of functioning. When we are placed in a place of responsibility, we abuse the position by corrupt practices. We might be frivolous late to work. We might cut time. We might embezzle the funds and involved in other corrupt practices. But as a child of God, we must not engage in any of those things. For example, it's possible I'm late to work, but I'm looking for a way to sign in that I was there early. It is possible I have worked, but they are going to pay some bonuses for people who worked overtime. I manipulate the time to do so. And so on. It is also possible I call when I'm asking, sign me in, thinking I'm very invisible for anybody to notice that I was not there. It is possible I'm put in charge of finances, funds. I look for a way to take out of it and cover it up, connive with others. It is possible I'm given a position of responsibility, share this among the poor and needy. But I said then, I give first to my family, and I sell the rest, or even sell to the poor and needy, yet it's supposed to be free. So, trustworthiness, fear of the Lord must be in us because we are children of God. We prove we trust Him, we prove we are responsible and accountable to Him, we prove our responsibilities to Him by obedience in order to a worldly position of responsibilities. And that is exactly what Daniel has done here. That even those concocting evil against him recognize that he was responsible, he was faithful, and he was trustworthy. Even the pagan king recognized him and gave him position of responsibility. God's intervention. Those are what I expected of us as children of God. Anywhere we are. Now, he was faithful, always responsible, and completely trustworthy. So they concluded our only chance of finding grounds for accusing Daniel will be in connection with the rules of his religion. Are you so faithful? Are you so God-fearing that people have noticed it? That is the only way they can reach you. By their fruits ye shall know them. They know he was pure in heart. They know he cannot be corrupted. They know they cannot concoct anything against him that the king will believe, or others who know him. Therefore, they have to go through his religion. Because he is known to be faithful, pious, pure in heart, responsible. He feared the Lord. He's devoted to the Lord.
Yeah, devoted. That's a good word.
Now, they could not find any ground. So they decided to go through his religion. Yes. Verse 6. So the administrators and high officers went to the king and said, Long live King Darius. We are all in agreement. We administrators, officials, high officers, advisors, and governors, that the king should make a law that will be strictly enforced. Give orders that for the next 30 days, any person who prays to anyone, divine or human, except to you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions. We are in Daniel chapter 6, 1 through 27. Will be thrown into the den of lions. And now, your majesty, issue and sign this law so it cannot be changed. An official law of the Medes and Persians that cannot be revoked. So King Darius signed the law. Irrevocable law, because when the king signs and proclaim, he cannot change it. Not knowing what was going on, and because of his pride, he was happy to be a semi-god for 30 days that would be worshipped. He accepted. He didn't try to probe why. He signed it. Now it has become the law of the land. See, they know this is the only entrapment. Because Daniel is so faithful and devoted to the Lord that he will not obey it. Then he will be captured. Then he will be sacrificed to the hungry lions. Okay. But when Daniel learned that the law had been signed, he went home and knelt down as usual in his upstairs room, with his windows open toward Jerusalem. He prayed 3 times a day, just as he had always done, giving thanks to God. The Lord did not frighten him. He knows the law. The Lord that he served. And he cannot at this time, when he has been with him, protected him, guarded him, provided for him, elevated him, the only one he knows, abandon him.
Thank you,
in
Lord.
fear and obedience of a human ruler. No. He did what he usually had done to the enemies. He is doomed. Let's see what transpired. Then the officials went together to Daniel's house and found him praying and asking for God's help. So they went straight to the king and reminded him about his law. Did you not sign a law that for the next 30 days, any person who prays to anyone, divine or human, except to you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions? Yes, the king replied. That decision stands. It is an official law of the Medes and Persians that cannot be revoked. 13. Then they told the king, the man Daniel, one of the cattle from Judah, is ignoring you and your law. He still prays to his God 3 times a day. They thought, we got him. The king may not be aware of what is going on. They have insulted the king. So I like what transpired after the report. And he said, hearing this, the king was deeply troubled, and he tried to think of a way to save Daniel. He spent the rest of the day looking for a way to get Daniel out of this predicament. Have you been so loyal, full of integrity, dependable, responsible, of good repute, that your boss, who is a pagan, would try to come to your aid because he loves you.
So you've been obedient.
Have you been that loyal as a child of God? Now, he did all he could. He thought of way to avoid this. Now, so he spent the rest of the day looking for a way to get Daniel out of this predicament. In the evening, the men went together to the king and said, Your Majesty, you know that according to the law of the Medes and Persians, no law that the king signed can be changed. They were pressuring him.
Yeah, pressurizing him.
But it didn't all go well with him because he loved Daniel. And he also is recognizing and appreciating his devotion to his God.
Yes.
Now, the king said to him, May your God, what is it? In the evening, the men went together to the king and said, Your Majesty, you know that according to the law of the Medes and Persians, no law that the king signed can be changed. 16. So at last, the king gave orders for Daniel to be arrested and thrown into the den of lions. Asterisk here, the king remarked to Daniel. The king said to him, May your God, whom you serve so faithfully, rescue you. Have people noticed your faith in your Lord as a child of God? That they recognize you, appreciate you, and even wish they serve the same God. And knowing that in any situation you are in, that your God, there's the likelihood that he will rescue you.
Yeah.
In quietness, in silence, the king envied Daniel and his devotion and faithfulness to his Lord.
Yeah.
And he said, May your God, whom you serve so faithfully, rescue you. Your enemy praying, your boss, a pagan, pray for you, a Christian or a child of God. That's fascinating. It was very fascinating to me. So we must excel in our faith, our belief, and dependency and trust on God. To that point that our enemies will recognize it and feel that they can do us no harm. But his enemies are jubilous, happy, they are jubilating that they have got him. But the king, a pagan king, what sad in taking the action. I wished he had not done it. But then his hands were tied. He had to.
Yeah.
But he believed that Daniel would survive the ordeal. Now, a stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den. The king sealed the stone with his own royal seal and the seals of his nobles, so that no one could rescue Daniel. What happened? 18. Then the king returned to the palace and spent the night fasting. Daniel has positively influenced, touched the thought processes of the king. He has silently converted him to the Lord. that the king went fasting because of what he has been compelled and tricked to do. So the king returned to his palace and spent dinner fasting. He refused his usual entertainment and couldn't sleep at all that night. He was troubled. He was sorrowful. He knew he had been tricked. This was not what he wanted to do. However, he had to do it. Very early the next morning, because he cared, because he valued Daniel and his faith on his God, because of his integrity, faith, trustworthiness, and responsibility, his integrity, the king, very early in the next morning, the king got up and hurried out to the lion's den. When he got there, he called out in anguish. Again, he did not say, "You all remove the stone. Let me see if the lions have devoured." He still had that faith and the belief that his God, like he prayed, may have rescued him.
Yes.
He said, "Daniel, servant of the living God." Daniel, servant of the living God, has your faith exalted you to that level that unbelievers will see you as a true servant or child of a living God? See, Daniel, servant of the living God, was your God, whom you serve so faithfully, diligently, unwavering, uncompromising, able to rescue you from the lions. 21, Daniel answered, "Long live the king." I believe he had a breath of relief. My God send his angel to shut the lion's mouth so that they will not hurt me. For I have been found innocent in his sight, and I have not wronged you, your majesty. 23. The king was overjoyed and ordered that Daniel be lifted from the den. Not a scratch was found on him, for he had trusted in his God. What became the outcome after this rescue, divine rescue? The king was overjoyed and ordered Daniel to be lifted from the dead. Not a scribe was found on him, for he had trusted in his God. Then the king gave orders to arrest the men who had maliciously accused Daniel. He had them thrown into the lion's den along with their wives and children. The lion leaped on them and tore them apart before they even hit the floor of the den. Sometimes I've heard this prayer say, "Let those who plot against me fall into their own pit." Okay. They plotted against me, but they were rewarded by what they intended to harm others. So a lesson there: don't plan evil against others, because if they are the people after the Lord's heart, what you intended for them will be boomerang on you. See? So, the king was overjoyed and ordered Daniel, that Daniel believed. We have read that. Then the king gave order to arrest the men. We have read that. And now, by their evil, their household were all destroyed. Then the king gave order to arrest. We have read that. 25. Then King Darius sent his message to the people of every race and nation and language throughout the world. That's his empire. Peace and prosperity to you. He's happy. He has found a new and trustworthy God. God who rewards and protects and defends the faithful servants. I decree that everyone throughout my kingdom should tremble with fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, and he will endure forever. To me, he's the decree. Seem to like someone who has already been converted before this happening. That he ran so well. Okay. Said, for he is the living God, and he will endure forever. Meaning the same yesterday, today, and forever. Yeah. His kingdom will never be destroyed. His reign has no end. And his rule will never end. He rescues and saves his people. He performs miracles, signs, and wonders in the heavens and on earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions. So, there's no situation we are in that we say, the devil made me do it. Okay. That will make us renounce our faith in God. Yes. No situation. The pastor sent me one WhatsApp when he came from Nigeria. I read it. Where somebody, some parishioners were praying and worshiping in joy and happiness. Then two of the parishioners acted like talks and went in and said, you have two choices. You renounce Christ and live, or denounce him. You renounce Christ and live, or denounce him and die. They were with guns. Everybody began to denounce Christ. And these are people, faithful worshippers who attend churches every day, who attended all the midday, the crusade, everything.
Even the preacher.
Yeah. Now, astonishing to them, the preacher also denounced. Even some parishioners resisted more than the preacher. Until such a time, the people removed their covers and their mask, and they were all surprised. And the pastor said, "Shut up, pastor," and all those sort of things. So our faith must endure in good and bad situation. Our resistance and holding on to him will be the testimony that will affect positively the lives of others. Yes, so Daniel was rescued. Divine intervention. Yes. And the whole empire, by decree, now became the worshippers of only one true God, the Lord of hosts. Yes. That is the impact we are expected to have on others, particularly unbelievers. That is why we say we are the Bible people read. When you believe faithfully. Now, not just one occasion, continuously. Not when things are good, but in the presence of adversity. When things have turned upside down. Still have that belief. Still have the belief that with him everything is possible. Now, another good lesson here is that he allows certain things to happen to prove himself to his loyal servants. And through Daniel, those people thought they were planning to do him harm. But by their action, God proved himself by vindicating Daniel. And the whole empire became saved. Amen. Now, we are going to enjoy this more by and understand it better by what I printed down here. Let's just, who will help me give it up? Let's take one and then just, will we enjoy it better? All right. Uncompromising faith. Questions to ponder. Number 1, are we exemplary workers as Daniel was? Why is this important to us as a Christian? Let's look at verse 4. Daniel was exemplary worker. He was faithful, always responsible, and completely trustworthy. Are we that diligent and responsible? Why are these important to us as Christians? Because in today's world, this is not how the world reasons. The world is corrupted. We are self-centered. We are looking for ways to make shortcuts and enrich ourselves. But it's important to us as children of God to have integrity, to be trustworthy, to be responsible. To do otherwise is to betray our Lord, because those are not his attributes, characters. His characters are expected to be our characters. Number 2, as Christians, do we stand out because our values are different from the values of the world? We stand out. Yes. We stand out because we act differently from the way the world acts. We believe in forgiveness. We believe in being merciful. We believe in helping the needy and the destitute. We believe in honesty anywhere we are.
Yes.
But in today's world, what seemed to be right are looked at as being wrong. For example, somebody has just aggrieved me, offended me. The world will expect me to revenge. Inflict more pain than he inflicted on me. And now, I'm praying for the person, for God to forgive. Okay, I bless him. And giving him food or a ride. Then something should be wrong with me in the eyes of the world. But the very moment we accept Christ as our Lord and Savior, we have accepted to renew our spirit, to set aside all the negative worldly things and embrace the new things of Christ and assume his character. That is being born again. And that is why we say we are in the world, but not of the world. Now, that was in verse 5. Then, if prayer or public worship was banned, how will it affect your life? Verse 10. If prayers and public worship were banned today, how will it affect your life? We will tremble and we will submit to the authority because we don't want to be punished. We don't want to be thrown into prison. We don't want to lose our income. We see things that are so valuable to us that we will denounce God, our faith in the Lord. That's what we do. But let's see verse 10. But when Daniel learned that the law had been signed, he went home and knelt down as usual in his upstairs room, with all his windows opened toward Jerusalem. He prayed 3 times a day, just as he had always done, giving thanks to God. We know there's a problem. And we know the only solution to it is to yield, take it to God in prayer. And that's exactly what Daniel did. If they ban worship, if they ban prayers, like what the U.S. is coming to, we do not just yield. We go to prayers, submit it to God, and ask for his intervention. Otherwise, we'll be honoring human rulers above God. Rather, we obey God than human rulers. Of course, there's room to obey those in authority over us. Only when what they are advocating are in agreement with God's will. They can't compel you to do things contrary. What effect had Daniel's character and work had on King Darius? Let's look at verses 16 and 19. 16. So, as at last King the king gave orders for Daniel to be arrested and thrown into the den of lions. The king said to him, may your God, whom you serve so faithfully, rescue you.
Yes.
He has touched the heart of the king. The king may have been silently converted. And 19, very early in the next morning, the king got up and hurried out to the lion's den. And 20, when he got there, he called out in anguish, Daniel, servant of the living God, was your God whom you served so faithfully able to rescue you from the lions? The king has been convinced that the God Daniel served is probably the true God. Five, what kind of reputation did Daniel have among the leaders? Which is in verse 4. What kind of reputation? Reputation, faithfulness, responsibility, and trustworthiness. And that's what angered them, because it began to be elevated again and again. Now, soon he will be the second to the king. They became envious of him. And that is what we are expected to be anywhere we are. So dedicated, so faithful, because of our fear of the Lord and dependency and trust in him. And the one who usually say, in any group you belong, if your absence is not noticed, you are not a contributing member of that group. So as a child of God, in any group you belong, and you are not noticed as a faithful devotee, servant of the Lord, and they still come to you to participate instead of being afraid to involve in those things in your presence, you are not a child of God. You are not a faithful child of God. Then when you are coming in, they are drinking, involved in some pervert actions. They are hiding the drinks. They are doing all those because they know you will not tolerate it. Because you will condemn and chastise them. Now, what number?
6.
Number 6. What means the Daniel's enemy decided they would have to use in order to get him removed? Verse 5. His religion. They know that nothing else they could do that will convince the king to take action against him. However, they knew equally that if there's anything that involves his religion, it will be defiant to disobey whatever decree, and by whomever. They went through the religion. It's just like the women are used to pull down politicians. Okay. So now, 7. What petition did they present to the king, and what did the king what did they suggest in case of disobedience? 6 to 7, verses 6 to 7. So the administration and high officer went to the king and said, "Long live King Darius. We are all in agreement. We administrators, officials, high officers, advisor, governor, that the king should make a law that will be strictly enforced. Give orders that for the next 30 days, any person who prays to anyone, divine or human, except to you, your majesty, will be thrown into the lion's den. So, what was that? And what did they suggest? That any person who disobeys should be thrown into the lion's den. Okay, what was Daniel's response to the king's decree? Yeah, the king made the decree, sealed it. Verse 10. What was his response? Daniel went to pray as before, 3 times a day, opened the window. Okay. Because if he was hiding to do it, it means he was afraid of the king and his edict. Then he would not have had faith in his Lord. It's like what they say, whatever will happen, let it happen. I believe in my Lord. And if you read almost all the apostles, they died by being killed or something and all those sort of things. But they didn't mind. They had to defend the faith. Okay. Number 9. What was King Darius about? What was King Darius about? And what did he say in it? Okay, I may have not structure. Okay, verses 25 to 26. Let's see. 25. The King Darius sent a message to the people of every race and nation and language throughout the world. Peace and prosperity to you. I decree that everyone throughout my kingdom should tremble with fear before the king, the God of Daniel. He recognized the God of Daniel as the only true God. He abolished and abandoned whatever gods they have been worshipping. Now, how does Daniel's experience relate to believers today? How does it relate to believers today? Now, are we just believers, or let me say fair weather believers, only when things are good for us, and then we have faith? Or are we quick to abandon our faith when situations become critical and there is no quick resolution? And that is what seems to be the path modern day Christians may take. But we are reminded our faith must always be abounding all through till death, regardless of the situation. Then, 11. How will you deal with those who will seek or cheer at your downfall? How will you deal with them? Then that will be verse 4. But I've had the answer there. Conduct yourself above reproach, which is those responsibility, trustworthiness. Begin to do good and trust in your Lord. Serve diligently those over you. Say, conduct yourself above reproach. Then you will have nothing to hide and your enemy will have difficult time finding legitimate charges against you. Trust and rely on God's protection. Do you know that the money is there and is put under your custody, and somebody is pressuring you, and you know we are all hard up? Just let him this and cover it up. If you succumb and they bring up some other things, you say no, they will say, they will reveal, expose you. Then you will get deeper and deeper. But if you resist, because you are a child of God, they have nothing against you. They cannot concoct something. Because your character is known, people will doubt what they have concocted. What can the unbeliever determine or say about your life? What can unbelievers determine or say about your life? You are a Christian. What do you think all those unbelievers will say, determine about you or say about your life? Because your uprightness is in question here. Your faith in your Lord that you serve is in question here. Let's look at verse 16. Say, may your God, whom you serve so faithfully, rescue you. May your God, whom you serve so faithfully, they can say, oh, he's a child of God. He's not going to be involved in this. No matter what, he's faithful to death. But when they begin to plan evil, and they come to you easily, effortlessly, to get involved, then you are not reflecting your Christian life. What is the outcome of trusting and obeying God at all times? Do you trust him with your life? Verses 21 through 23. Said, Daniel answered, long live the king. My God sent his angel to shut the lions' mouths so that they would not hurt me, or have been found innocent in his sight. And I have not wronged you, your majesty. The king was so overjoyed, and ordered Daniel to be lifted from the den. Not a scratch was found on him, for he had trusted in his God. Say, what is the outcome of trusting and obeying God at all times? Do you trust with your life as Daniel did? Yes, a person who trusts in God and his will is untouchable until God takes him or her. To trust God is to have immeasurable peace and comfort. God will deliver, who delivered Daniel will also deliver you. Amen. When you have uncompromising faith.